how many of you have been to these CX Challenges events before? We are now on our, I guess, second full year of doing these. So we're really excited about bringing everyone together, and especially this kind of new format and new way of bringing more people together. So just a couple super quick things before we get started. So we will kind of be sharing, and also, we'll have our speakers talking, but we highly encourage everyone to have your video on if you feel comfortable. We do still want to try and make this a really friendly way to network and meet more people in the community. I apologize for my sun lines. I'm sure as soon as the sun goes down, those will be gone. But yeah, this is really a chance and an opportunity for us to come together and bring some really interesting content together, but also to meet more people in our community, build our networks, and engage each other in a way that we can. So you will all be automatically muted as we go through, but please, if you have any questions or comments or thoughts while we're going through, please put them in the chat box. If you don't have that immediately open, if you go to the commands, to the control bar, there should be 3 little dots where it says more. You can open up the chat there. And yeah, we highly encourage you to add in any questions, comments, thoughts as we go. And we'll try and distill those down to the right questions for our panelists as we're going through, but also just we'll have a breakout session to have some more conversation as well. So it's a good opportunity for us to all kind of understand what's going on with other people within our community, to see the types of questions and thoughts that are happening as well. So highly encourage you to engage as much or as little as you feel comfortable. And yeah, just we're very excited to have everyone here. So to get started, so we're here to talk about designing the right CX for your customers and organizations. So as you follow along, if you do feel like you want to go outside of this room as well, we have a hashtag CX Challenges. All good. Also apologize if we have any technical stuff that's happening. So our agenda today, we'll try and keep it pretty tight because we're not able to meet in person, we're shortening the agenda a little bit. So it will be quite a fast-paced event, but we're really excited for everything we're going to get through. We are going to start with a little bit of an introduction. Then we're going to have our first of 2 panels where we're talking to designers and strategists who are talking about our topic today, so designing the right CX for your customers and organizations. And in that we have Jane Bita, Justin Tan, and Nina Vlajevic. I don't know if I mispronounced that, I apologize. We then are going to also have some breakout room discussions. So similarly to how we would typically have an opportunity to network and talk to each other in real life, we're going to have some breakouts, and you'll be assigned into some rooms so you can have some conversation with each other as well. And we've got a question to really prompt that conversation. And that will be about 5 to 10 minutes depending on how we're going on time. Then we've got our second panel where we will be talking about the same topic, but with people who are business leaders and CX project owners. So in that case, we have Aaron Brady, Kieran Ackford, and Steve Fisher. So I'm really excited about that. And then we're going to try and end approximately 7:45. So first of all, thank you so much to all of you for making it here in our virtual space. We know that the world's a little bit different than we originally anticipated, even just a week ago. And so we really are super excited to bring everyone together. And I think we all need something that's a little bit non-stressful right now. And this is a great opportunity for that. I also first want to start by thanking one of our sponsors, so Com100. So we have Ty Roter from Com100, who is going to give us a super quick little update on who they are and what they do. And we, again, want to thank them for coming on and helping us to put on these events because we are a volunteer group putting this on. So I'm going to pass it over to Ty to give us a little bit of an introduction to who Com100 are.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for everyone joining today. Obviously, different circumstances as we've been pointing out, but it's almost the perfect area or project for us to talk about kind of what we do. So we're a digital omni-channel customer experience platform. So we do everything from live chat to AI chatbots to kind of ticketing, et cetera. If you could go to the next slide. So just to kind of give you guys a heads up, I'll keep this really short and sweet, but basically we do the ability to engage with your clients, obviously from a contact center or from a live chat perspective, depending upon how you want to communicate with the actual client themselves. We have the ability to do through websites, through mobile apps, through text, SMS, and all of your different social properties. And then the things that we handle is through the live chat window itself, the ability to integrate ticketing and messaging, and then a knowledge base. The platform itself, we integrate with various kind of AI and chat bots and things like that give you the ability to make the most of your technologies to help your clients understand the things that they're looking to do without having to take up the capacity of the agent's time, where, you know, an agent is probably more suited to be able to handle and discuss some of those higher graded questions with our AI chatbot, and even something what we call agent assist. Again, an AI piece helps them be able to dictate the questions and provide them answers in more of a conversational way than the way in which people think of AI chatbots today. I think a lot of us look at it as it's a bad word sometimes, or we don't get the customer experience that we want. But I think also too, making sure that people understand that it's very similar to an Excel spreadsheet, that if someone sends you an Excel spreadsheet and there's nothing in it, you don't really say Excel sucks. You kind of say, hey, there's no data. Very similar to kind of an AI chatbot. So that's kind of an overview. Where we differentiate ourselves is just our robustness. We're extremely secure, as you probably saw in the last. So we have anywhere from small mom and pop shops all the way up into large global providers of healthcare and banking solutions. So our securities kind of go across all levels. But the big thing is very configurable. So being able to accommodate what you need to do today, and then be able to grow with you as we go in the future. Go to the next slide. So this kind of gives you an idea of kind of just omni-channel routing. So knowing that you want to make sure that your client from a customer experience gets to the right person each time, depending upon which channel that they come through. So long story short, we have very complex routing rules that allows to make sure that that person or that client gets to the right person that's going to answer their question as soon as possible. So obviously in the times that we're in today, sitting on the phone for 3.5 hours with hotwire.com that I had to last week to change a hotel room, being able to chat with them online would have been a lot faster. So things like this, where your customer experience increases, knowing that based on how you answer a few questions to start off with or what you fill in, certainly gets you the right person that can handle your request immediately. And we're actually, obviously in what we're dealing with today, we're actually providing our AI chatbot. Our AI chatbot engineer has developed a COVID-19 bot. And basically what it does is it has all the facts. It has the ability to answer questions. It pulls from databases from the US and Canadian governments. We're actually offering this for free right now. So being able to put this chatbot on your website, because you're going to see a lot of people messaging, calling in, just asking questions about simple things like, how are you guys working? Well, this is happening. And what if I have this and that? This actually helps you. So if you're interested, by all means, please reach out to me. We're happy to provide this kind of 3 months, if not longer, depending upon how we go with this. But this can help you also understand kind of our solution, our product, at the same time as being able to provide answers to those that are coming to your website. So I know it's kind of a complex and a small area of what we do in a short amount of time, but by all means, please reach out if you've got any questions.
Thanks, Ty. All right. And just a couple other quick thank yous to one of our sponsors is Qualtrics. So they are an experience management company. They are how the world's most successful businesses continuously improve the experience people have with their organizations. So thank you, Qualtrics. And then the organizing sponsor is our organization, PH1. So we are a customer experience consulting firm and service design firm. We do things like CX audits and strategy, remote CX training, persona development, journey mapping, and discovery research. So over and above of also putting on these CX challenges events. So please do be in touch if you are looking for any support with any of those. But in the meantime, I also wanted to now introduce our topic. So what does it mean to be customer-centric, especially now that we are in a COVID-19 world? So we would be remiss if we didn't try and at least talk a little bit about that, because it has completely changed the way that we're doing things right now. But it doesn't have to necessarily completely change the way that we look at customer centricity and we look at customer experience. So first of all, some organizations are doing a great job. They're looking at really fast and quick ways at pivoting and trying to change for the way that their customers need them to do business. So some of the airlines in particular have really had to do this. Their businesses are really dependent on it. So this is an example of United, where they've really tried to not only change the way that they are removing change fees, but trying to look at their customer experience and that entire journey and looking at what are the touch points within that they can now address or adjust to be better than the expected in a very challenging time. Some other ones, like we're going to hear a little bit more about Telus today, but Telus has been doing a lot of work in the health space, and they're looking at how do they provide self-screening tools, how do they provide distance-friendly consultations, and more importantly, how are they also addressing the broader spectrum of their organization to not just look at the health side of things, but also the technology side of things. So how can they make that entire customer experience really seamless and compassionate to where people are today? But some of them are also struggling a little bit. I thought, maybe this is a hoax, but I thought it was kind of funny, this Seattle Times getting hit and them saying, yes, I want coronavirus updates, and it just being a little bit too long for that button, and they didn't really test that before they put it out there. Tourism companies are really struggling right now, but some of them are a little bit challenged when it comes to what is the right way to approach trying to help your struggling business when people are maybe not in that same headspace. They're thinking about different things. So, Sandals trying to give $1,000 credit is great, but at the same time, when people are just trying to cancel their trips, it's not really as on the nose as it should be. So, how do we look to reimagine that? And the thing is, we've been in this world of reactive customer experience, which really isn't working anymore. So we use lagging indicators. We look at ways to wait until customers come to us and say, you know what, I'm unhappy with this, or I've stopped using it because of this thing that you did. And that's not going to help us in a situation where we're in a bit of an emergency and we're not sure how to pivot. So being more proactive with our customer experience or even employee experience is an opportunity that we now have to thrive. Using this time right now where we're sort of forced into this this listening zone, this like reimagining and rethinking zone, is using that time to come up with strategies that are more human scale and more compassionate. So listening to what our customers' needs are and finding ways to be a part of their life more than looking for new marketing schemes. That's the way that I think we're going to stand out or change from that traditional brand customer relationship. So some of the things that we're trying to do as well is, we're trying to learn from employees and organizations to help get ahead of future emergencies. So one of the things that we had shared previously, but, I want to just invite everyone to, again, just as a quick plug, is we are doing a research study about the impact of COVID-19 on customer experience, and we do invite everybody to participate in that if you feel compelled to. We have a bit.ly link, which is just bit.ly/COVID-19-CX, and coming out of that, we'll also look at ways to maybe do some co-creation and find ways to, engage the community a little bit better to all learn from this situation. But more importantly, what is some of the work or some of the ways that we can use customer experience audits, use design thinking and service design, and some of these skills and tools that our community already has to look for ways to engage brands in a more meaningful, more proactive way. So some of the work that we've done that's come out of that has been working with Indigo on an app called Thoughtful. So finding ways to engage people in a more emotion-based purchase pattern. Working with Telus on people don't like to talk to support. So how do you make that friendlier? How do you make that more humanistic and remove those barriers? And then, how do we look at using journey mapping to not just say, this is someone's, their day-to-day experience, but looking at it from different types of emotions that go through their day that have nothing to do with you, but really do impact you as a brand and as a company. So finding ways to engage some of those a little bit deeper through the experiences of your customers that maybe don't have anything to do with you and maybe they do. So tonight we're wanting to talk to a number of different people who are working on different types of projects and different types of strategies that really play on some of these. So, we're going to focus on designing the right CX for your customers and your organization. So now I'm going to throw it over to our first panel and introduce them, and we're kind of right on time, so I'm excited. But I'm really excited to bring our first three people, and I'm going to do a quick introduction of everybody, and then I'm going to turn that. I'm going to take my screen share off so that we can hopefully see all of you as you talk as well. And again, please bear with us as we try and figure out how to pin people and make sure that you get to see everybody as they're talking and engage them. But again, throw your questions in the chat as you go, and we will have a short question period afterwards as well, where hopefully we can grab some of those questions from the chat as well. So first we have Jane Vita. So I went in alphabetical order from first name, but Jane is the design director of Digitalist Group. She's involved in the leadership of communities and associations such as the Interaction Design Association and the Service Design Network, which is hoping to launch a new chapter in Vancouver soon. We also have Justin Tan. So Justin is the design director of Turtle Design, has worked with some of the world's largest and most loved brands, including Mozilla, Glassdoor, Meetup, EA, and Telus. And then third, we have Nina. I'm just gonna not say your last name because even though I've known you for years, I don't know if I've ever actually had to say it. So I'll throw it over to you in a minute and you can tell us all. But she's the director of experience at DDB Canada. Her team offers research, design, and strategy services for a variety of clients across different sectors. So I have been lucky enough to work with her on a couple of projects over a great number of years. So yeah, I'm just gonna throw it over to you guys, and I've done a quick introduction, but what I would love to do is have each of you sort of introduce yourselves by giving us an example of a typical project that you and your team would be working on. I'm just trying to stop the share. So maybe I'll throw it over to Jane first.
Oh, hi. Okay. So hello, my name is Jane Vita. I'm a designer, I can say that, right? And I have been working as a designer since 1997, so quite a while. I started my career in Brazil, and I'm Brazilian, and I moved to Helsinki, Finland in 2008. I lived there for about 9 years, and then in 2017, Digitalist decided to create to start the design competence here in Vancouver. And then I took the challenge and I came. And so I'm here since about 2.5 years now. And today at Digitalist Group, I have two roles. Basically, as a studio design director, my primary responsibilities are working with the client proposals like scope, resource, and design work, and also facilitating and empowering our talent people, like great designers, to feel proud about the work they are doing. And also as a service design lead, I'm facilitating internal and external dialogue around service design practice. And in our client projects, I act as a lead consultant and helping customers to discover future of their digital future. This project, they vary from extensive discovery projects, sometimes a very short sprints. And as you said, Brittany, I'm involved in many design communities, and I love talking about design and the future of our profession. And maybe this is the reason also I'm here and I accept your invitation. And you said about a quick project, some typical project. Yeah. So often I think I work in agency, right? So usually the clients, they want to improve a customer experience, experience journey, and they want to also sometimes improve their operations and how they can deliver more value. And most of these cases, we go through different digital touch points, different so people with different kind of projects going on that sometimes are overlapping. So we do a lot of integrative thinking there, like a lot of co-creation and collaboration work. And I think this point now, we also figuring out how to do it, everything online. And I'm actually improving a lot, to be honest. I'm kind of, I don't know yet if I'm good with cameras, but it's quite interesting. I don't think the dynamics is like I say something and people say. I just say a lot, and then people talk a lot, and it's not as interactive. But I'm learning, isn't it? And then and because we also have like tech people in house, we can deliver like the project. So we go through like understanding customer journey, finding gaps, like opportunities, and looking at operation, help like the customer to develop better ways on how they can do it. And then with our tech team, we look at feasibility, and then we can build. And so we have like our expertise in house for like creating design systems, like beautiful UIs, accessible UIs, and very inclusive. Yeah, I think that's all.
Perfect. And it seems like Brittany popped off. Might be one of the glitches that we, of course, could never anticipate. So why don't we move on to Justin?
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Justin. I'm the design director and one of the founders of Turtle Design. So I started my career in 2009. I started working at Critical Mass, a big global agency. So, we were doing a lot of microsites and Flash things at that time. But, fast forward to 2016, and me and my co-founder, we started Turtle Design. We're still a small studio. We have 10 people, and we're all designers. So very much focusing on product design. On the tech side, we work typically with partners or the developers on our clients' teams. So we really rely on other developers and that collaboration to work on our projects. Our focus is on product design. So a typical project would be a highly functional web app or mobile app. We work on the entire product design spectrum. So from branding, product strategy, UX, interface design, interaction design, to testing and optimizing. And over the last 4 years, we've worked with all kinds of clients. So we've worked with large enterprises like Mozilla, Glassdoor, and EA. We've worked with smaller startups and post-startup companies. So we have clients that have niche businesses and platforms in insurance, HR, education, and real estate, to name a few. And with all of our projects, we work as a design partner. So we become our client's design team or part of their existing design team. And because we tend to work on a larger digital roadmap rather than strictly on a project-by-project basis, this gives us flexibility to move between multiple projects and shift as the priorities change. So if there's something that we get an insight and this part of the product or this entire initiative is not as important, we can switch over to something else without change orders and all that. There's a lot of collaboration with our projects. We talk with our clients a lot, and we rely on developers as well. So we're often participating in dev sprint cycles as well.
Perfect. Well, and Nina, over to you. Just super quick, what is a typical type of project that you would work on in the CX world?
For sure. So yeah, I'm Nina. Last name is Belojevic, but I do not expect anyone to pronounce it when they read it. I am leading the experience team at DDB. I have more of a strategy background and have over time more and more moved into UX and CX and kind of thinking about experience design more broadly. And our team at DDB, basically we do like research strategy and experience design quite broadly because DDB is a full service agency. So our projects really vary a lot. We do everything from like as an agency, we offer things like traditional advertising, brand strategy, and identity development through to like content creation, communications planning, different kinds of digital experiences, websites. So it's really hard to say here's a typical project because they vary a lot. Even for my team where we get brought in, it can be anything from helping clients just understand who their users or audiences are and just building empathy and developing research insights and materials to help them with that. It could be helping working on an advertising campaign and just thinking about what's the experience across touch points as somebody sees something on TV or hears it on the radio and then engages with things online and then engages with the brand directly or goes into the store. What are those different touch points? How does somebody move through all of those different things? Through to doing research that then informs like a communication strategy that we might develop for clients. So every day is quite different. We work on a lot of different things, but at the core of it, it's really kind of what I strongly believe in is just that we need to understand people's needs and think of them as real human beings, and using those types of insights is really what will create the best experiences in whatever format, whether that's online or offline or wherever it is.
Great. All right, so there are two parts to tonight's conversation, tonight's topic. So designing the right CX for your customers, and then designing the right CX based on your organization. So first of all, what is your process for understanding the needs of your customers and then delivering that experience? And then how are you also making sure though that fits the, it makes sense for that particular client given, their mission, their values, and their budgets? Nina, we'll start with you.
Me? Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear. Awesome. So yeah, in terms of needs of the customers and best-in-class experience, I think it's really, as I said, like starting with listening to your customers and learning from them. So it really varies, especially with the work, as I said, that we do. It can be such a wide range of types of projects that we work on, but wherever possible, we try to start with some kind of research, whether it is, being able to do, interviews or talking to people and observing people and learning from them, or if it is working with data that's available that we can gather from platforms and things that are already in place, just trying to find as much insight as we can on what people's needs are and who they are, and just building an understanding of, people as human beings and customers as human beings. And from there, then determining what's the best output. Is it, materials that just help build empathy? Is it a product that we're developing? What's the best kind of solution? And just making sure that that's really driven by human insights. And then the other part of your question was around the kind of the client needs, right? And sort of understanding like processes and things around, understanding kind of the business. And I think that's a huge part as well. So especially coming from a strategy background, kind of all the projects we approach, we really think about what do we need from a business perspective, from a brand perspective, and then from a customer or user perspective. And I think those are sort of the three big pillars that we try to always bring to everything. And so with that comes starting out also understanding the business, talking to internal stakeholders, talking to subject matter experts, frontline staff. I think there's so much knowledge usually in those groups, and it's just such a treat when you actually get to interact with them and talk to them and just pick their brains, because there's so much to learn about the business and about their priorities and goals and also pain points, but also about their understanding of the customers, because they're often the ones who are seeing stuff day to day and learning a lot from that perspective too. So I think kind of having a balance where there's learning from customers and users, but then also learning from the people who are in the business and understanding what their bigger goals are, what their pain points are, and how we can help bring that all together. Because without understanding kind of the underlying problems, it's really hard to come up with good solutions.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to throw it over to Jane.
Yeah, so I think this is very core of as a service designer, and like in projects we work. I think I have seen like in the early stages we were always struggling. So we would talk with customers, we understand like a journey is like even like how very like detailed usage, like how they could engage, but we didn't have much access to the to the organization on like how the process of delivering this service was actually impacting, right, the kind of work we were doing. And I think nowadays it's like with the knowledge we are having and like how business being treating like customer experience, we have more access to the organization itself, and like getting in people from different departments and like getting them together to, you know, establish some like priorities, like goals, and like creating like roadmaps and implementing like kind of incremental design.
Hey, Jane, you have an interesting perspective, because if you were saying that you were working kind of in a space before where you didn't have access to those people, where you didn't have access to kind of those insights to be able to really talk to customers in the same way. How did you get about, like, how did you go around that? Like, for people that are here that don't have as much access as maybe you have now, what should they know about getting that access while still keeping in mind that their clients have maybe small and shrinking budgets?
All right. Well, I think it comes from it's like really, it's a really mindset, right? And we think we have all these blockers, and I think what I learned, and I think I got a little bit more confident as a designer when I grew up in this area of service design, and learn more about service design practice and like business design practice. And I think everyone should have a little bit of that and learn more about service design, because it gives you tools to, it's not like a design, like a shaping tools, but it's another kind of shaping. It's like integration shaping. So you get like, I would say like this is a manipulative way of saying, like, you talk with people, you understand what they're doing, and then you start putting the things together. But it's a lot of sense making, like a making sense process, right? So you talk with people,
figure it out yourself, like, you know, go a little bit guerrilla style.
Yeah, it's like a catalyzer, right? So you might think that sometimes you lose the power of giving your own ideas because you put yourself as a facilitator. But I think it's a very noble place to be, right? You're like the one that giving a form, not the one that is like creating everything, right? You're just facilitating. Sometimes you can, of course, you can have some ideas, you try to say something, but it's not, I think the goal is really like putting the big puzzle together, right?
Okay.
And then of course, like I think the way there, when you say customers and people in the organization, they have an equal weight, because if you don't understand like how the operations, you know, how the service can be delivered, or the way this should be, you know, how it should work, so you can deliver value for customers. You might find a way, okay, this is what we need to build, but you don't have the tools and things in place to do that. So I think it's two important things.
Yeah, I mean, what would be great, and I won't ask you for this now, but maybe what we'll do is we'll follow up this event with maybe some service design tools that you think are really interesting for people to check out, so that they can, you know, maybe learn a little bit more about service design over this time.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, Justin, over to you. What is Turtle Design's strategy in terms of making sure that you're, you know, learning the most with the customers and doing what's right by the customers, but, you know, given that each client has its own values, its own, you know, missions and needs and budgets. So maybe just a few minutes.
Sure. So our process, you know, like a lot of these ones, we start a lot with research, and I really like what Jane said, where you start with looking for understanding and not really like projecting your own values or your own opinions, just trying to understand at first. For our company, as a product-focused company, we very much prioritize prototypes over presentations. So we really strive to create testable designs as quickly as we can. So that's something I believe in, that putting something in front of a user that they can play with is the best method of seeing if you're delivering an excellent experience. And so from there, we can take insights, optimize the design, and then test again. So just keep on going through that cycle. As it relates to clients, I think it's really the same idea here. Clients are another type of user that we have to understand. So we again aim to show prototypes and designs rather than big strategy presentations. So we work very closely with our clients in sprints, so that on the budget side, it's really transparent. They're seeing, you know, their burn rate for their budget, and they're active in making decisions along the way as we're pivoting through. So there's never a surprise, like if we go longer or shorter, or they have to cut the budget. It's something that we've decided and prioritized throughout the project or the engagement.
Okay, great. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit now. I want to find out how you would approach some specific types of client projects. Like, let's give people some real meat here. So the first question, or the first scenario, let's call it, is your client wants to reduce their expenses. They want to automate as much as possible. How would you go about designing an experience that customers enjoy but meets this goal? Who wants to start? Maybe let's go Justin.
Sure. So my first step would be to talk to both customers and frontline employees. And I'd really want to get a good sense of what the frontline employees are currently doing that is creating a good experience. So often these kinds of projects, the frontline people are really offering this amazing experience. It may be very manual, and that's why it's expensive, but they're doing a good job of offering that. So what I want to do is figure out what aspects of what they do can be replicated or even improved on through automation, and also understanding what parts can't be replicated or improved upon, where a frontline employee is really offering the best customer experience. That way, the organization can be really confident in what roles should be done by a person and what should be done through automation.
Great. All right, Jane, in 2 minutes.
All right. Oh, we actually work with our AI team. So we have an AI team in Digitalis, and they really know what you mean by that. But it's a very interesting question. There is, of course, like the value of automation itself and how you can get like a data, sorted out and extend I would say like a human capability, right? Because you would spend so much time sometimes on things that are very repetitive. And then you can really, focus on like the creative part, or can focus on really, tackling like a very, very specific challenge, like, like giving like sometimes prioritizing things, more severe things. I think there is a lot of goods in like automating certain process, but it might be that, I don't know if you have any example of something that could be a bad automation.
Okay.
But I think it could work well.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So just in general, automation helps with reducing expenses.
Well,
all right. So
no, not that. Actually, putting people to spend their time on the right things.
Perfect. Okay. So Nina, I'm going to throw over to the next question for you.
Sure.
So the next scenario is your client wants to find a way to compete with the Amazons and the Expedias of the world. They want to find a way to differentiate and be more authentic. How would you go about designing an experience that customers enjoy, but also meets this goal?
Mm-hmm. Well, for this, I think the most important thing to start out with is just starting out with kind of who are you as a company and as an organization, and what is the one thing that only you can offer that isn't out there right now. And I think it's great to look at some of the best in class examples and stuff like that to get inspired as an organization. But yeah, starting kind of from the inside of who you are and thinking about, what are your values, what is your offering, and then combining that with understanding the needs of like your customers or prospects or the audience that you're trying to connect with. And I think that's really where that sweet spot is when you start getting those insights of, what are the gaps of people's current experience and where can we fill those gaps in a way that nobody else can or that nobody else currently does. And I think that's where those really remarkable organizations or services or products come out of, where it's sort of finding that sweet spot of here's a solution to a real problem that people are having, and we're making that easier for you and providing real value.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to now go to the last scenario. Is your clients want to win on quality of service, something that truly stands out. They rely on both in-person customer experiences and an online one. How would you go about designing an experience that customers enjoy and that meets this goal? So I'm not going to pick one of you, but is there one of you that feels really strongly about answering this? We just have a couple minutes to answer it. All right, well, then I'm going to pick one of you. All right, Justin, go.
Okay. Well, a lot of the in-person CX falls outside of my specific area of expertise, but in tackling a problem like this, I would really focus on in-person to digital transitions. So these are points where a user is entering or exiting a digital experience. So, you know, let's use the example of an insurance broker, and, you know, they have forms that you need to fill out and you're talking to them on the phone. Are these forms automatically populated in your online account? Or, you know, if you're using chat support and you switch to a call, do you have to explain the issue all over again to a new agent, or is that information contextualized for the new agent? So I think that these, you know, points of transition are really key in designing great overall customer experience, because digital touch points are kind of injected in every like overall customer experience.
Great.
Yeah. I think Justin is really right on that. I think it's the digitalization itself helps. It should help like humans to do better job, right? And in that sense, they won't spend like much time on the trying to figure out, or you know, making some like giving the possibility to errors in like if you type something wrong, because you have the information, you know, from one system to the other. So I think those kind of things it shows like how digital and you know the personnel and like people can work together, and I think it's like when it's relevant.
Great. So I have one more question now before we go to sort of leaving the question out to the attendees. So just, you know, thinking about your questions, feel free to put them in chat, or we will I'll open it up, and if you put your hand up in chat, we can actually unmute you as well, so that way you can ask your question. So think about your questions while I ask this last one. All right, so in 1 minute each, given how the coronavirus has rattled markets and changed how we work and live, do you have any thoughts about how design can help struggling organizations? So let's start with you, Nina.
All right. Well, I would say for organizations right now, it's kind of starting out with the same questions as I think what a lot of us are probably thinking about as individuals, of like, you know, this is a sudden huge shift. And, you know, so it's like, what can I as a person do to like improve the safety and health of those around me? Like, what can I do to support people who are struggling right now? How can I help out or just be a positive part of my communities? And I think that's kind of the similar things apply for companies right now. It's like, as an organization, you play a role in the community. And so, you know, how can you do something good with that? How can you, you know, take this time and support people? And so that's where, like, really, if you are a designer or an organization that thinks of themselves as human-centered or customer-centered, this is the time to kind of prove that. And I know a lot of companies, a lot of organizations right now are really struggling, right? Obviously, this has huge economic and financial impact for people, but even in the midst of that, I think where you can really stand out is to, even if you need to pivot and shift how you're doing things, what can you do to just do something good right now? And that could mean, you know, making something easier for people, helping people who are in need right now, connecting people who are isolated right now, right? Everyone's alone and feels kind of stuck in their home right now. So how can you connect communities, or even just like entertain people when they're bored at home? Like, there's so many things I think that organizations can do, and it's a really interesting time even to see how organizations are responding. So yeah.
I just saw a very great initiative in Helsinki. They are doing it's like hacking the crisis. Like, so they put some creatives to you know, just like people, they can join, like, and they're talking about how they can solve some like a really challenge they're having at the moment, like helping small business, and kind of really, you know, putting our design, you know, creative minds to come up with some solutions, right? I think we do have this the tools, right? The capability to come up with something. As a human, we're very creative, and we just need to understand like what are the things we have at the moment and how we can get the best of it, and then support each other. It's not easy. It's not easy. I tell you, like we are a global company, and we have seen this happening from like with the different angles in different parts of the world. and it's coming here. So it's not a good thing to feel.
Yeah, no, that's a good use case of people kind of coming together in different places to find solutions through design as well, which is great. And then just super quickly before we go over to Justin, does anyone have any questions that they want to throw into chat, or, you know, put your hand up in chat and we'll call on you as soon as he's done, just throw it in there. So Justin, maybe in 1 minute, what is your sense on this?
Yeah, you know, how it affects our kind of clients. I think that the pandemic is really accelerating the necessity for digital transformation. So I think the best thing that designers can do is help organizations to offer their services in a new way, and often that is a digital way, and helping facilitate quick and thoughtful transitions for slow organizations. So, you know, reacting quickly, recognizing that, you know, there is a big shift that has to happen. And I think designers that are good at integrating different platforms and, you know, pieces here and there that do different things, integrating them and making a consistent experience, that's key in bringing these organizations up to speed in terms of offering their services in this way.
Great, thank you, everybody. All right, so I'm going to open it up to if anyone has any questions. I'm not sure if we need to unmute you, so please do let us know if anyone has any questions. And so far, there's nothing in chat. So if anyone has any questions for the panel, that'd be great. Otherwise, maybe we will ask a bonus question. Anybody? Bueller? All right. Well, then I'm going to just ask a quick bonus question that I skipped before.
Oh, we do have a question.
Oh, okay. All right, Deborah. I've been thinking about the distinction between a customer service centered organization, so one that values itself on things like call center metrics and social media engagement, versus user centered organization, ones that really start with the user needs and use that the base. And use that to base all of their designs. How do you help people differentiate between them? So how do you differentiate between a user-centered organization and a customer-centered organization? Customer service-centered organization, sorry.
Can I respond there? So there's it's a really good question, actually, and this exactly kind of thinking took me 60 pages, you know, from my thesis when I did my master's. And it's like I wrote the 60 of them and I had to throw them out. It was like, wasn't really a pleasant thing because of the difference of like what is a user experience and what a customer experience is. I think marketing, when we talk about marketing, knowing target, you know, like knowing target groups and all that, we understand like style, understand lifestyle, and I think there is a great understanding of the customer in that sense. But there is, I think what Deborah says, it's really a service-minded, like mindset inside of the organization, right? Like very people-centric, like what do you call like innovation culture, service culture. People that empathize with their customers and they put the customers in first place. And we're looking for things like delivering value. We're not looking at like a real needs, right? Because if you ask someone that, okay, this is good for you. Yes, this is good, but it might have a bad impact on their life. We're not looking at like long-term, you know, like in the value creation. So I think we think a lot about like a context, like a long-term engagement, understanding like not only lifestyle, but like in delivering value. And I think the customer centricity in that sense, it's like a real people empathizing and like putting people in first place. It's not only meeting targets, right?
Great. All right. Any last questions? Otherwise, what we're gonna do is go into breakout rooms, which we're really excited that we're able to do through this platform. Okay, Christine, any tips or recommendation on how to demonstrate the value of service design for a small to mid-sized business?
I could answer this since we are a small business. Um, I think that at least with our clients, you kind of get predominantly two different types. One where the leadership team has really bought into the idea of user-centered design or customer-centered design, and that's been through a lot of like influence that they've read maybe in thought leadership or different things like that. So those are kind of like easier clients to work with because they already believe the same things that we do. So part of it is, I think, finding the right kind of clients. The other kind of clients that we have are ones that maybe have been burned before by, bad experiences that they've designed that have underperformed, or by competitors that are challenging them in these kinds of designs. So I think using data and analytics to kind of highlight the areas that they're underperforming and how design can actually address some of those things in a very tactical way is a very useful kind of conversation piece for that kind of client.
So Nina, as someone who is constantly having to sell in the idea of being more strategic and being more, service and user-centered to clients who maybe don't understand the value in it yet, what are some of the things that you do when you have to try and sell some of that in?
Yeah, I think it's kind of jumping off of what Justin was saying. I think it's really once you can show the insights you get from it and how those apply. Like, I think what gets really exciting for clients or potential clients is when they start seeing, here's something we learned from the data, or here's something we heard from your customers, and here's what that means in terms of the opportunities that we can identify out of it. Here's what that means in terms of areas where we could improve things. So I think that's a big part of, what we try to bring into processes. And, obviously when you're trying to get new business, it's really hard to do a full research study in order to get the business. But even if you can find like small ways to have some learnings, or even if it's just from a small sample of people or something like that, where you can say, hey, by just talking to 3 people, we learned these really interesting things. It shows, first of all, an understanding of kind of their business and the kinds of questions that they probably think about a lot themselves, but then shows that having insights from real people can lead to really interesting areas of opportunity or just ideas or ways to go about things. And so I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, that's really great insights, everyone. I definitely think, especially when you are looking at ways to minimize or reduce the, these massive long projects that we're trying to get away from, and finding ways to be nimble and agile, going out and being a little bit guerrilla in the way that you do your research can be really beneficial. And especially because you can really quickly start to, if you start integrating some of the like jobs to be done way of interviewing and trying to get a little bit more of a deeper knowledge of the people that you're talking to, you can not only learn about how they use something and how it exists in their life, but also, what are maybe the missed opportunities that exist right now. So that's really great. And thank you for those questions, Deborah and Christine. They're really fantastic.
Think about the ways that we're communicating, just in a broad sense. So not only empathy-based in terms of finding the biggest points along the journey that could make the biggest impact, and the messages that we're, so taking ourselves out of the mix, I guess. That's something that I would think about.
Yeah, there's a... Go ahead. Someone say something.
Oh, that was me.
Oh, hey.
I was saying, I keep going back to the example that was shown at the beginning of this presentation of the travel company that was kind of giving the big $1,000 off if you book right now, that kind of thing. And I think that just kind of shows the danger of not really thinking about what it is that your customers are thinking about right now. Like, they're framing their thoughts on what to prioritize, on what they want customers to, how they want customers to behave, and how they want to, what they want to encourage them to do. And it comes across as, very inauthentic, as very much missing the mark, because they're not sitting there thinking about like, what is really important to the people that we're reaching out to right now.
Yeah.
And what are their big concerns? And like, we need to address that first before you can think about anything that you want them to think about.
Yeah, there is a big impact, right? I think there is the organization side, like how you support your employees, right? Like, and getting them all safe and like, working like nice. Well, we know like the organization part of it, but also the customers, like how I have seen so many of these like newsletters now, like the emails like coming and saying something. I don't know if this is a good thing because I don't read the emails anymore. I just like, oh my, so many of them. Everyone has a concern about the COVID.
Well, and it's all very much the companies wanting to show you what they want you to know about what they're doing. Instead of addressing anything that I actually care about. And I've done the same. I've stopped reading them because there's nothing in there that I want to know about what they're doing.
So what do we think that we can learn though? Because that's, you know, like I recently discovered all of the email lists that I didn't know I was on because of it. Right?
Same.
How can we look to being more proactive to prioritize what customers need, but still allow us to show that we're doing the right thing by our customers and our employees?
I think something we can do, and it depends on the business, you know, the scale of it and what contact points you have with your customers, but we can't be a customer-centric organization or company without touching and reaching out and hearing from our customers. So whether that's a voice of customer channel, like obviously at a company like Telus, we get a lot of feedback and sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's difficult. But the trends that we see within there are what help us inform what decisions we should make too. You know, there are some proactive things in an emergency, you know, depending on the type of business that you need to do. But I think that's true for a small business as well. The more you're in touch with your customers, the more you're able to respond to them in an appropriate way. So the newsletter example, I also run an event. And so, you know, that's not super fun right now. But Lou Rosenfeld reached out and he sent one of these newsletters. And he started off by saying he hated sending it. You know, like it wasn't like this, it's okay, everything's fine. He's like, no, you know, it's not okay. It's, but we are doing what we can. And it was like this real connection point where I felt like, yeah, you understand your audience. And so whatever kind of voice of customer information he was getting helped inform that. I think that's critical.
I found like a very elegant way of approaching. So I heard about one company that it sells, you know, like drinks and they actually transform, I don't know how, like a chemical, like they just kept it like the alcohol part, and they are selling this, you know, like we're now running out of you know, the oh my goodness, I'm like the sanitizer, exactly, like we're all like running out of sanitizers, right? Like, and they turn their product to a solution for this problem. So it's like really looking at what you have, like a capabilities you have now, what the tools that you can offer, you know, as a solution as well, right? And I think this was a very elegant way of like looking at the product they have and making it as a solution, which was super interesting. I was like, oh, you know, like we can go to, you know, any like, you know, like liquor store and actually use the stuff, right? It's not actually so bad.
Yeah. Great. Well, and just we have a comment in the chat that from Saba, whose mic isn't working, but they were saying that for them, they're a B2B consumer goods company, that they've begun a series where they're asking their customers how they're dealing with this, and then providing educational programs on the pain points that they're talking about. So that's really interesting, and it's a shame that you're not able to talk about it a little bit more. But yeah, this is all really interesting, and I think it's a conversation to continue to have as we try and figure out how to proactively be ahead of this sort of thing, you know, if it happens in the future, and find ways to, yeah, just be more customer centric so that it's easier to continue these conversations when we really, really need them, right? And so thank you everybody for our quick little breakout. I know it didn't work out the way that we were hoping it would, but that's okay. You know, it's all a trial, right? Like we're living in a different world now. And so with that, I want to now move over to our second panel and introduce our second panel. So we have Aaron Brady, who is the Director of Product and Innovation at Pacific Blue Cross. He heads up the product management practice, as well as Pacific Blue Cross's forward-facing innovation practice with a focus on improving the health and well-being of British Columbians. We also have Kieran Ackford. He is the Senior Manager of CX at Rocky Mountaineer. He's led their CX transformation and currently chairs Rocky Mountaineer's CX Council and is leading the migration to a CX measurement platform, which is fabulous. And then we also have Steve Fisher, who is a late addition. So thank you so much for joining us as well. He's the principal designer at Telus. His focus is on scaling CX operations to eliminate barriers for customers and give them the best possible experience. So first of all, thank you to the three of you for joining us today. And, just to kind of kick it off, with the designers, we spoke a little bit about their, the way that agencies and consultancies have to work, and they each have a different perspective than you do as people who are more on the business side of things. And so, I want to start with, again, introduce yourself very quickly, maybe a little bit shorter than the last ones, but tell us something amazing and something that's stressful that comes out of the responsibility of having to implement budgets, having success metrics, and, really having to implement those customer experience improvements themselves. So let's maybe start with Aaron, and we have Aaron here. So yeah, hey Aaron. So
Sure.
maybe we start with Aaron. So what is what is something that is really amazing about that, and what is something that's really stressful about that responsibility?
So hi everybody, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. In terms of something really amazing, I think what attracted me to client side, I had a background on agency technology side, was having some assets, having some capital that you can rearrange and deploy to build different customer experiences, which at Pacific Blue Cross allows us to do things like connect our 1.5 million members in the province, is try to start to connect them to different health technologies and things like that the health technology or health startup might not be able to accomplish on its own. So just being able to leverage assets a little differently than if you were at a startup or if you are at a startup or on the agency side, where you sort of have to constantly pitch and win those things over to you as you build. What's stressful about it is almost the inverse of that same problem, moving those assets and moving, getting people to make decisions to move those things around is a big lift. As you build assets, you tend to get more rigid, you try to protect those things. So the stress comes from when you do decide to make a change or move on to something new, you risk losing what got you to where you were in the first place. And there's a lot of fear of change that makes you have to go out on a limb to get anything done.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, Kieran, what's really amazing and what's really stressful from your perspective?
Yeah, of course. Hi, I'm Kieran. Thanks very much for having me. I think for me, one of the most exciting things is the chance to work with people from across the business. So in the CX role, you're at a kind of privileged position within the business where you get to see what's going on across most other parts of the business. What are some of the things that they're working on? What are some of the business challenges they have? What are some of the things that they're trying to solve for in their specific parts of the business? So that's one of the really exciting things for me, is kind of having that overview of what's going on and what's being worked on. In terms of the stressful, I think for me in my role, it would be that all of this is new. There's no templates, there's no precedent, there's no processes in place. There's no, it's building everything from zero, which often means there isn't necessarily a right answer. There's not, option A is the right answer, option B is the wrong answer. There's always, there's generally some trade-offs with one or the other. There's some people who favor one approach, some people who favor another approach. And it's actually about building it's a lot about building the story, building the case that you need to move things forward. There generally isn't a right or a wrong answer. It's more about it's more about a way of thinking and getting people to approach things in a certain way. And so that just means, there's a lot of ambiguity to navigate through.
Thank you. All right, and Steve, what about you over at Telus? What are some amazing things about getting to work on the CX challenges at Telus? And then what are some of the stressful things about that? I think you're muted, Steve. Oh. Okay, hang on. We can't hear you. Oh,
Okay,
there we go. Perfect.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. But that's okay. That's actually kind of fitting. So what's amazing is just the breadth of the customers and business that we work with, you know, so trying to figure out customer experience from like within digital, delivering on Telus.com to Telus Health spinning up their own digital department and how that connects with our physical stores. I'll skip right into the stressful. Stressful is now. Like, you know, when we make those connections, and right now we are an essential service to the country. You know, we're all able to connect because we're on some kind of internet connection, whether that's Telus or not, doesn't matter. But really figuring out all those connection points between a store closing to being able to self-serve on digital. So it's both exciting and stressful, I would say. Within the organization, though, of course, it is one of those things where when you have, you know, 50,000 folks working on something, now most of them aren't working directly on like CX vision, things like that, but making sure that people really understand their part and how they can deliver and have that cohesive experience as best as possible.
Great, thank you. So the customer is always right? That's the cliche that only people who have never run a business would say. But the reality is that the customer is always complaining about something, and there's always something, you know, wrong or different than they were expecting. So how do you know when a problem is big enough that it's worth investing in a small improvement versus a major CX project? Maybe Steve, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, like, we'll definitely look for trends in our voice of customer as it's coming through, like how that's impacting. So I work primarily in the digital department, just to put that out there. I'm not working necessarily on all like physical products and things like that. But if we're seeing things that are negatively impacting our overall voice of customer and digital experience rating, you know, we can then look at the trends that are coming through. And like right now is a really good time for that because we're able to see what Canadians need or what they are expressing that they need and able to group that into trends and take a look at what kind of impact will that have on our customers as a customer-centric organization, then also on the business metrics that we need to drive. Because there's that balance of we can only offer these services, of course, if we continue to remain sustainable. But we'll look for trends within that. And so there's actually someone else on the call, Lauren, helped put together some of the surveys that are now working on our voice of customer. That's always evolving, but being able to divide that thing out and sort of an agile and rapid iteration. I don't mean agile in the development sense, but in being able to respond quickly. So now we have like a voice of customer channel. Specifically, it informs us on people's situation that are experiencing real pain right now because of COVID-19.
Great, thank you. So Erin, what about yourselves? How do you know when, you know, something is a big enough issue that you need to do a whole overall CX improvement versus just a minor update?
Yeah, this is a really good question, Steve, to your point in this context, but it is something that Pacific Blue Cross wrestles with quite a bit. We're a healthcare organization and an insurance, a financial organization, two of the most regulated and well red taped industries in Canada, if not the world. So when we do need to address a particular concern, if it is coming from a client and it's, you know, customer's always right, it's a complaint. Sometimes those complaints have legal requirements, privacy implications that drive them right to the top of the list in terms of things we need to fix from a customer experience or redesign perspective. So that can drive some of the priority. Outside of that, however, I would sort of echo a little bit of what Steve said. You're looking for trends. You're pulling back on the data you have available. I would add a little bit to that in terms of trying to mirror it to where you're trying to guide whether it's the product, the service, the experience from a strategic direction perspective, and helping to prioritize that way as well. So we get a lot of feedback, we get a lot of voice of customer, we get a lot of complaints on a daily basis. Our clients are extremely effective. I've got calls today through to my phone from clients out of the 1.5 million. They managed to find my phone number, so they can get through. And if they get through the right person, sometimes that makes it a priority just because they hit the right person or the right chord in our company. But always pushing back and trying to push that back to data. How big of a problem is that, and reflecting that back to, is that where we want to be focusing? Do we need to make solve that particular problem right now, relative to trying to move into a particular, whether it's a industry segment, sector, and things like that. So pairing the two with data and strategy.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is find the personal phone number of the people who you want to make a change.
I can,
Perfect.
if you call me, I can't fix it. So that doesn't.
Perfect. Okay. So Kieran, I'm going to send you to the next question, because I know in your intro, you mentioned a little bit about just the struggles of having to be the person to make those choices, which, I would imagine that in a tourism company right now, it's a particularly challenging one. But, what I'd like to know from you is how you go about making sure that when you're making those choices, that you're delivering a customer experience that people actually want and need. Right? So beyond just how do you decide what's a small change versus an overhaul, but how do you ensure that you're doing the right thing that customers want and need as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a good question, and some relevant points have already been picked up. So, I mean, definitely, looking through the voice of the customer piece, any of those channels that you have with open communication with your customers, how can you make sure that what you're designing for is something that they are bringing up? But really, for me, this question would be a case of going back to the basics. So, what are the fundamentals that you have in place? What's the journey mapping that you might have done, or what's some of the personas that you may have created? What are those kind of really good strategic documents that we should be going back to time and time again to really ground us and start from the beginning and looking at, okay, really what are the needs of the customer at this point in time, based on where they are in the journey. What's our starting point, and then we add in, okay, but today we know today's world is slightly different. We know things are changing, so how have our guest needs evolved? How do we, what are some of the needs that they're experiencing today, which perhaps 2 years ago when we did our customer journey mapping, we didn't document because we didn't know they existed. That wasn't the right time. So I think it's a case of really going back to the basics and returning to those pieces of work that we might have done previously. And then just the last one is really making sure that we align the touch point, we align our delivery of the touch point to meet the needs of our customers. So there may be, in today's climate, there may be things that traditionally we might have done over email or we might have done over chat, but actually, given the complexity and given the anxiety that some of our customers may have at this point in time, maybe that's not appropriate. Maybe we need to move to a different channel, or maybe we need to offer them multiple channels so they can actually select. I think today, it's really important for us to also consider not just what we're doing, but how we deliver it and how we've delivered it in the past, and does that still apply today?
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, I think that as someone who does do journey mapping and kind of living in that world, it was interesting that you brought that up, because it is one of those proactive tools that allows you to see like what types of your customer audience maybe will have higher anxiety just in general. And so how do you prepare yourself for which of those customers maybe need more of your attention? Do you find that that's been helpful as well, like using those artifacts to be able to predict what you need to look to in the future?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So some interesting work that we've done in terms of our personas is we've overlaid our personas by booking channel. So we have several different booking channels. So you can book directly with us. And if you book directly with us, you can book on the phone or on our website. or you can book through any number of trade channels. So, for example, through a bricks and mortar travel agent. So what we've actually done is we've overlaid our personas onto the channels where people book, so that we know that, based on the booking channel, there are some different needs that we need to cover off in terms of how we go about delivering that experience. The information needs of someone booking online are different to someone booking on the phone, and they are different to someone booking via a travel agent. So yeah, I'd say that's one of the ways where you can take the artifacts that you have and then actually apply it to the business scenario that you have to get an even better understanding of what's going on.
Okay, great. So many of the people that are here in the room today, are likely here because they work for organizations which are maybe a bit slow to respond or don't have the capacity and the experience to really be able to understand the needs of their customers and communities in the same way that the three of you are fortunate enough to have. And so I'd like to go through some specific scenarios with you as well and really look for what would your take on this be, or how would you approach some of these scenarios. So we're going to start with the first one is, we know our customers aren't happy and we're losing them. We're just not sure whether it's better to invest in more marketing and sales or into a better customer experience. What should we do? Steve, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah. You can hear me okay? Yeah,
Yes,
okay, great. Well, it's kind of can be both. It depends on the situation. Like probably because it's like omnipresent for us right now. If you take the current situation, the wrong type of marketing would lose us more customers, being tone deaf in a moment like this. But that's actually true in sort of any situation. So it's not that a company shouldn't market. And I think it's actually, so both is the answer. That we should be focused in on, okay, well, what is wrong with the customer experience? What are we learning about this? Or what can we learn if we don't know to improve upon that? But then also, how do we get the message out that we intended to, if we haven't already within that? Yeah, and so like my tendency, because of the work that I do, is to focus on improving the customer experience. I'm not traditionally or not typically involved a lot in the marketing side of it, other than to say that our marketing messages should align with what customer experience we're trying to deliver. So like right now, we shouldn't be quite as playful as maybe a company normally would be. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the same overall voice and tone of a company, that feeling that you have grown to trust if you do have that trust level. But yeah, focusing in on the customer experience is where I tend to land, but also making sure that aligns to the marketing messages that go out then as a result, or are continue to go out.
Great, thank you. All right, so now I'm going to throw over to Erin, the next scenario. So customer experience is innovating so rapidly that it can be overwhelming. If I've only ever worked in an organization that's done things a certain way, how do I know what's feasible and achievable? So as someone who has clients, agency, and startup background, what's your take on this?
So working in an environment where, I guess to get your question right, it's sort of the environment where we've always done it this way, is sort of the predominant or default. I guess to your point, having some of that background in different environments, in startups where there is no baseline for we've always done it this way. In technology where people are getting tasked looks like a lot of people on this thread, you're tasked with defining new ways of doing things. Having that background is valuable. It can also be a pain because a lot of people start to perceive, you can very quickly become sort of two sides, chicken little, in terms of, we need to be advancing, we need to be delivering new customer experiences, we're going to fall behind, doomsday is coming, versus, we can define customer pain points, we can start to change how we service those change points, and landing that story in a way that that doesn't totally disrupt or in the best case scenario, builds on the way that it's always been done, so that people sort of feel that incremental change moving forward. Way to go. Did I answer your question? I was like desperately trying to pull it up.
No, that's great. I suppose what I would ask maybe a little bit more of is, are there any particular instances or, advice that you would give people where they are, caught in that Chicken Little scenario of, we need to advance, but then everyone's like, well, it's still working. What advice would you give someone in that scenario?
So my team finds ourselves in that exact scenario all the time. So advice would be find what's comfortable. Well, here's one thing that we do. We, in this group, people have talked a lot about sort of user journey maps, user personas. We build user personas of our internal stakeholders to understand some of their pain points, particularly those people that are maybe saying, it's always worked this way. This is the way, we've delivered the growth over the last 30 years to get to this point. I'm sure it'll serve us. Really understanding their context, their pain points, what's going to motivate them, and aligning not just your messaging in terms of trying to sell an idea into them. That's definitely important, but actually using that to inform the design you're taking forward to them, because there is a lot of value. There's a lot of organizational knowledge, industry knowledge, systems knowledge that comes with them getting to a point where they're saying this is too much to change. Really working with them to understand that, to inform the design you want to bring forward has really helped us.
Interesting. Have you formalized those internal stakeholder personas?
Yeah, we don't share them outside of my team for obvious reasons, I think. But yeah, we do have they're formalized things that my team has and reflects and builds on. The way my team's structured is we service out to different business units.
Yeah.
Sort of like an internal agency. So yeah, we definitely do that work to understand.
Really interesting. Thank you. All right. So now, Kieran, I have a scenario for you. Yours is, we don't have the time or budget to make something perfect. We just need to stand out while also reducing costs. How can we do it?
Yeah, easy question, obviously. I would say kind of two approaches. The first one I would say is, what's the cost of it? What's the cost of it going wrong? So, depending on the relationship you have with the business, if you do this quickly and cheaply and release something and it goes wrong, what's the long-term cost of the business? And can you use that to tell a story to get more investment or more resources or more time to build something that you're happier with, or that you think is going to better serve your customers? So really kind of highlighting, okay, yes, we could do this. We could take that approach, but if it goes wrong, we believe the cost could be X number of customers, or inefficient processes, or we're going to spend more time trying to fix this than we actually spent trying to build it in the first place. So that was kind of one potential approach. And then the second one would be what's the minimum viable product that we can get out to the market, and then how do we set up a feedback loop to collect how do we tap into our voice of the customer? How do we make sure that something that we release or launch, we can tie in our voice to the customer to get some really quick feedback and make iterations? Can we release this to a test group? Can we release this to a small subgroup of our customers or our customer base? Get some feedback for them before we release it out to everyone. Those would be a couple of possible approaches to take, but yeah, definitely not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we have, I think, one question in there, or maybe two, but I'm, going to put it out there again. Anyone who has questions, throw it in the chat, or kind of say in the chat, I have a question, I want to ask it over video. And while people are doing that, I'm going to send the same last question in 1 minute. So over the course of 1 minute, we'd love to hear your thoughts about how organizations can address the dramatic challenges created by coronavirus or COVID-19 in their customer experience. So maybe Kieran will continue with you. 1 minute, go.
Okay, definitely something that's relevant for us right now, and will continue to be for the next couple of months. I think we've mentioned it already, but it's tapping into those sources that we have. How can we understand what our customers are saying? How are our social media comments spiking? How are our inbound calls spiking? What are the different call subjects that we're getting in? How can we track that over time? Right now, it's very much reactionary. It's firefighting. But if we can set up some of those measurement pieces now, early on, we can then start to see how they trend over time. How do we start to see some signs of recovery? Like if we can start tracking these things, what are the signs of life? What are the signs of recovery? What are some of the signs that the sentiment of our customers is starting to shift in the long term? Those are some of the things that we can put in place, I think, today that are going to set us up. I think, imagine for a lot of people on this call, this week has been very much heads down, just trying to figure out how we move forward. But to take a step back and look at, okay, how are we going to understand when things start to change again for the positive? Is something that's going to help us out.
Okay, thank you. Being proactive, I love it. And so, Steve, what about you?
Listen to your customers. That's sort of the biggest thing here is listen to your customers, help them plan out your actions to that. In a case like this, listen to the government, the World Health Organization, the CDC, and do what we can to have a really calm and collected tone of voice throughout this whole thing. Our customers are counting on us, whether that's a independent restaurant, 7-Eleven down the street, Blue Cross, Telus, doesn't matter. We're seeing the response in grocery stores and things like that. And anything that we can do long-term to help our customers feel at ease and be heard, whether you can actually do anything for them or not, may not matter. And so your response being collected and not overly reactionary. Landscape is changing every day, though. So I'll just leave it at that.
Great, thank you. All right, Aaron, in 1 minute.
Sure, I'll just again build on both of you because those are excellent answers. The only thing I would add, listening and being aware of your customers, 100% being sort of hyper aware of your customers' needs right now. I think when we were looking at it on our side is also using this to explore new ways of working. And Steve, to your point, how literally things are changing on a day-to-day basis. It's hard not to be reactionary, but how do we set up teams or teams of teams that can start to address those concerns really quickly, faster than we would normally work, new ways of working for us to tackle those. I think it is an opportunity for us in terms of how we might change not only how we address COVID in the short term, but I think there's opportunities for us to learn from this and how we can respond and start to be proactive in responding to the voice of the customer into the future.
Great, thank you. All right, great advice, everybody. So we have a couple of questions, so I'll read them out. From Sean, we have a question about tourism suppliers. So this one I'm assuming for Kieran, but are tourism suppliers working on long-term strategy for future pandemics, as they will come, or is it too difficult while in the present reactionary mode that's necessary at this time?
I'd say the short answer is too early to say at the minute. Yes, I think there's definitely something that will, as an entire industry, will certainly be kind of one of the lessons learned in terms of how can we be more prepared for these types of situations. I think, too early to tell in terms of what's the lasting impact going to be, how long is this going to last, what's the travel how's this going to change travel intentions across the globe. Yeah, certainly from a Rocky Mountain point of view, yes, we do have kind of emergency operating responses and procedures in place. So yes, it's something that we have actively worked on in the past. Something of this scale and this severity, I suggest that no one could really foresee this coming. Certainly within the short time frame that it's kind of happened. It really has been over the last 7 to 8 days where all of these kind of restrictions and have been put in place, and just the pace with which it's happened has been incredible.
Thank you. So we have a question from Justin, and he's asking, what process do your teams go through to develop long-term roadmaps for improving and innovating on CX and getting buy-in from leadership? So Steve, maybe I'll put that one over to you.
Sure. I would say there's just one singular process. Like anything that happens within Telus right now, but this has been my experience at other companies too, has to be outcome based. So what is the outcome and impact to the business? So understanding what our customers are telling us, but also how that will help the business long term is a big part of that when we're selling it to, or getting buy-in, we'll put it that way, to leadership. Because I think often we get, like, this is probably where your question is coming from. We just kind of get it at times. We feel like we're just in that with our customers. And that's not always the case for everyone because they may have a different focus within the business. So being able to work on that, and in our case, break that out quarterly. So we can break it down into smaller sprints within that too. A sprint could be like a month. It doesn't have to necessarily be like 1-2 weeks, things like that. And to help people see how every quarter we will make progress towards what might be an end goal. But that has to be socialized a lot. Like, if I'm honest, it's not just like, hey, here's like a one pager and you got it. It's more like, here's a meeting, here's another socialization, a presentation, a demonstration. Often if we can show success in one small area though, we can prove it, then that helps get buy-in a lot faster. Sometimes you just have to run ahead, unfortunately, and then prove the roadmap out, if I'm honest.
Thank you for the honesty. We love it. So now we have a question from Rebecca for Aaron. She's asking a change management question. So working in healthcare, do you think it's possible to innovate quickly despite the more intense governance and risk mitigation processes you face? Or should you focus on preparing your organization for slower incremental process or progress? Which way would you lean?
Great question. And it's sort of to Steve's point, I think that he just made. I think it's a bit of both. There's times where you need to push forward and sort of hope or bring the organization with you when you're trying to drive pace. In terms of the question around is it possible to innovate quickly? Yes, I think what it takes to innovate quickly, I think takes a lot of time to establish. We've seen a lot of, or I would say we're starting to see some successes in terms of our pace quickening at Pacific Blue Cross, because we've spent I'm going to say the last 2 to 3 years investing and building relationships across the health ecosystem in British Columbia. We have really strong partnerships in government with health technologies, with startups, with incumbents, with other insurers in the province, whether that's ICBC or WorkSafe BC, and bringing them to the table and having them ready to have conversations with you is really what helps drive pace. So events like this, where you can start to connect and start to have that ecosystem network, will drive pace in healthcare and in insurance. I think where we slow down is when you run into those unknowns, where a risk, where you can't call someone or connect with a colleague who understands the risk a little bit better, and that kicks you back or can completely stall a project. So starting to establish that ecosystem drives a lot of pace and prepares you to drive and be more comfortable driving into what would have otherwise been perceived as risky territory.
That's really, yeah, it's great.
Which way do I lean? I definitely lean on building that ecosystem and having the teams in place to go at pace. But yeah, in terms of getting it there, making sure that it is there before you do drive too quickly, because going back to Steve's point, you can make an incremental gain, which helps get that buy-in, which builds that momentum. But unfortunately, and particularly in healthcare, an incremental failure can end a project early. So the risk is the idea of a fail forward is not doesn't live so intensely in the healthcare space.
Perfect. Thank you. That was a really well-detailed answer. I think that, Rebecca, she says she appreciates the thoughtful response. So fabulous. Perfect. Well, if we don't have any other sort of immediate questions in there, I know, Sean, you had put another one just about wondering about how people are adapting and how organizations are adapting to working from home, as someone who has been sort of a remote worker for a number of years. And I would say that I worry that maybe it's a little bit too early to kind of throw that out to our panelists today, but I think that that's a really interesting conversation that
I would totally answer that question if you want.
Okay.
So like not from a definitive answer, obviously it's just experience, but
yeah.
The department that I work in within Telus is about 450 people. Obviously the company is much larger than that. Not everyone can work from home. But we mandated work from home last week at some point, or midweek last week. And I just immediately assumed, oh, this will be easy because, like you, Sean, I have had a lot of experience that way. Even my work style at Telus is 2 days a week. I work from home or somewhere else. Sometimes it's a camper van, actually. But it's not easy for everyone. That's the short answer is it's difficult. And so things that we've spent quite a bit of effort on, and I'll be like collecting some of the stuff from this is internal Slack channels where there's about 400 of us on. Its Work from Home for the Win is the title of the channel. And it's people sharing tips and tricks and getting on meets together for lunch and having all the things that we used to do in person together on that to help guide folks through. But one thing I can say that it didn't totally surprise me, but the feeling for the team has been overwhelmingly positive, is how much better our communication is now that we're all distributed. We don't run into those situations where you have a core critical or mass of like 10 people in a room somewhere and 4 people in different locations elsewhere. Our communication has never been better, but it takes a lot of effort. I'd say that the team is going to, the hardest part is taking away the social isolation of a situation like this. But the actual ways of working seem to be people adapting to it pretty quickly overall. Now that said, it's digital work. All of our team members can do that in my department.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting case study kind of when this all blows over and people go back to sort of the new normal, I suppose, and what will that look like and how are organizations adapting post this as well. So, I highly encourage everyone to kind of continue these conversations amongst our community and all together, because I think that there's going to be some really interesting learnings that come from that as well in terms of how do we better create CX strategies and employee engagement strategies, right? Like how do we learn from some of these positives that come out of the negatives and really continue to bring that to our work. And again, I will highly encourage and ask everyone who hasn't done it yet, if you would be able to also participate in our survey. That would be really helpful for us as well, because we want to be able to publish some interesting insights and some toolkits in terms of how can we be more proactive with our customer experience strategies moving forward, coming out of this type of an emergency and into whatever the next one might be. So thank you everybody for being a part of this, for joining us. So thank you to everyone who makes this possible. That includes all of you. It includes our panelists, our speakers coming from Digitalis, Turtle, DDB, Pacific Blue Cross, Rocky Mountaineer, and Telus. Also to the sponsors who allow us to put these on. ourselves. So, COM 100, Qualtrics, and PH1. And then just a super quick note. So I know some of you had purchased tickets originally because this was supposed to be an in-person event. We were going to have nice food. And so instead, if you did purchase a ticket, we will give you a code to be able to attend one of our other in-person events once in-person events happen again. One of our panel events. So we will announce what those are sort of as we're able to. And yeah, we're right at 7:45, and we really appreciate all of you attending today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send us some emails or to, and we'll make sure that the panelists get those as well. So we really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.